John of the Eye Patch, Chapter 32. "Give me back my eye patch!" John yelled. But two more burly pirates stepped up to grab John's arm, while a cloaked figure disappeared back down the ladder, with John's sharkskin eye patch in hand. The pirates turned John around, keeping his arms pinned behind him. Anne frowned at John. He saw she wasn't holding a gun at all, just a broomstick. "And tell them to let me go!" John kicked and thrashed as much stronger pirates carried him to the hatch. "Anne, please!" "We're under attack, John. What do you think Blackbeard's daughter would be doing? I'm taking prisoners, and any sort of your compatriots that do not surrender will be hunted and killed. Do you not understand that, Mr. Time Traveler? And you have to believe me, it's not an attack. I just needed your help," John yelled as the pirates dropped him down the hole to the main level. Pirates caught him there and hauled him to the low-ceiling basement, where they locked him into a steel cage. Trapped in the darkness of the basement tower, John had nothing to do but listen to the increasingly distant roll of thunder and kick at the steel bars of his cage. "Pirates hunting my mom," he thought, and here John was, a prisoner, not even able to travel through time. Stuck. So foolish to think Anne a friend. John slammed his head against the stone wall of the tower, an act he instantly regretted, as the jaggedness of the stone both gave him a headache and sliced his head enough to draw blood. He groaned. He listened to the roll of thunder and to the distant crack of flintlock guns. He waited in the darkness and wondered how his dad would react when he woke up to find that John had stuffed pillows in the bed. Abandoned twice. Nothing John could do about that now, he thought. He scratched at his arm, where the 4 band-aids covered the gunshot wound. The skin was still tender, and not even the slightest scratch. The skin was tender, and even the light scratch made John wince. Nothing to do but sit in a cell and wait, and wait, and wait, and then wait a little longer. He kicked at the bars. The iron refused to move, and the force of the kick reflected back up John's leg, making his ankles and knees ache. "Anne!" he screamed as loud as he could. "Anne, don't leave me here!" In the dark, in a damp basement, thunder boomed in the distance. It had been a long time since he heard a gunshot. Pirate voices returned. They sounded jovial and excited. No other prisoners came to join John in the cell. John worried that his mom and the rest were dead. It was a silent cry of defeat, with tears running down his cheeks and his breath only enough to sustain wakefulness. The hatch leading to the main level of the tower opened, and with a groan, candlelight snuck around the edges of the cloaked individual. Grunts accompanied steps on the creaking steps. The figure was larger than John remembered, and hunched forward in a slightly humpbacked way. He pulled the hood of the cloak back. It was Mr. Griffin, the vulture-looking man. "Lad, you have no idea how happy you've made me." "Give me back my eye patch," John demanded. "I don't have it." Mr. Griffin snapped his jaw as he said. He leaned in and squinted. "Have you been crying?" John wiped his cheeks with his hand. "You have. Oh, this just gets better and better." He sat on a low stool across from John, holding up a flickering candle. John pulled his legs up to his chest and scrunched as far from the light as he could. "Blackbeard left me ashore after you got the drop on me at sea. You cost me my post on his ship." Spittle dribbled from the corner of Mr. Griffin's lips. "But oh, how the course has recharted. You might have heard the cheers from before. The Queen Anne's Revenge was sighted only a few miles from shore, returning with 3 prize ships in tow." "Blackbeard is coming here?" When John finally spoke, his voice cracked and warbled from the earlier crying. His heart began to thud in his chest at the memory of Blackbeard's smoking visage. chest covered in pistols, intense in his demeanor. Mr. Griffin inched the stool closer to the iron bars. "But I'm gonna give him something even more valuable than a prize ship. I'm gonna have you ready for him." Ha 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 ha. Mr. Griffin's grin pulled wide enough to show wicked and twisted black teeth. "Why would he want me?" "Revenge, lad." Mr. Griffin leaned away and chuckled. "For what? I've never hurt him." "No, but you did make him look bad, and that's a whole lot worse. On top of that, you attacked his tower just so you could steal away his daughter for ransom. Oh, he's gonna enjoy torturing you." "I wasn't trying to kidnap Anne." John crossed his arms. "You thought she'd run away with you or something?" Mr. Griffin slapped and laughed. "Anne would never run away with a bilge rat like you. She's such a good daughter that sometimes I forget she's adopted." "Adopted?" John asked. That explained why Anne had a fair complexion, while Blackbeard was so dark in color. "Enough about Anne," Mr. Griffin interrupted. "Let's get back to the torture. He'll probably start with stringing you from the yardarm, and then maybe some good keel hauling. The captain's mast, of course, be good for flogging." Mr. Griffin made a whipping motion. "Crack!" He shivered. "You, lad, you're gonna be one sorry little scurvy pup." As horrible as all the torture sounded, John's thoughts turned to his mom and dad. He'd never see either of them again. An epiphany hit him. The ship in the bottle that he found on the beach when they were hiding from Blackbeard at the start of the adventure. At least there's a chance to leave a message for Dad. "I want pen and paper," John said. "What? Why?" Mr. Griffin leaned in and looked at John sideways with curiosity. "I want to write my confession," John said. It was a lie, but he needed a pen and paper if he was going to even have a chance to tell his dad about what had happened to him. "Is this some kind of trick?" Mr. Griffin asked. "It's not a trick. I want to confess of my own free will, so the torture doesn't ruin the telling," John said. "Very well." Mr. Griffin stood, hunched over to avoid the low ceiling, and left John alone. He returned a couple minutes later, leaving the candle across the cellar from John, and leaving John a single sheet of parchment paper, a pen, and an inkwell. "You better write fast. Blackbeard will be here any minute." Mr. Griffin left and closed the hatch behind him. John scrambled to the edge of the cage, reached through the bars, and pulled the paper and a pen through. He had to strain for the inkwell, his wounded arm grazing the bar. Pain shot through him, making him see spots in the dim candlelight. He peeled back one of the band-aids of his arm. The skin around the wound was getting purple and red. It was infected. He just needed to get back to his dad and get antibiotics. But also, he had no eye patch. He wasn't just trapped in the pirate world. He was going to die here. John dipped the pen in the ink, and he began to write. "Dear Dad, the eye patch is magical. I used it to travel back in time. Unfortunately, I've been captured by pirates, and I can't come home. Mom's here too, but she's not captured by pirates. But here, it's 1717. Before I was captured, she told me to tell you that she loves you very much, and she never meant to be sent back in time. She also told me that I was supposed to go back home and stay with you, but I didn't. I wanted her back so bad that I disobeyed her, and I lied to you. I didn't mean to run away from you, but Mom needed me, just like I need both of you in my life. What I'm trying to say, Dad, is that I love you, and I'm so sorry about lying to you. I know you can never forgive me for running away and for keeping Mom a secret from you, but I did it for us, for our family, so we could be together again. So I don't have to go to boarding school. I already lost Mom. I was going to lose you too. Please, Dad, please forgive me. Your son, John of the Eye Patch." He looked at the letter in the dim candlelight. He hadn't meant to write his confession, but it was exactly what he had done. A euphoric lightness came to him that he hadn't felt since first telling the lie. The ink was still glistening on the paper, and John blew on it until it dried. He neatly folded the paper over twice. On the outside of the letter, he wrote, "To Benjamin Horngold, Thatch." Following that, he wrote the name of the hotel, the room number, and the day and time of John's disappearance. He used the pen to chip at a crack in the cement between the stones until he made a big enough gap that he could sneak the letter in. Hopefully somebody finds it. The hatch to the main floor creaked open. John whirled around, his back against the gap with the letter, shielding it from any prying eyes. His heart thudded again. Was this Blackbeard? Was he about to be tortured?